So good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully this works out this time. We'll give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else decides to join. So thanks. So we're just going to give it a couple more minutes to give people a chance to get settled. I should also note that when we're doing this, I actually am working from home right now and I don't have a double monitor. So unfortunately, as I'm running through this, I will not be able to see your questions and answer them as we're going through, but I will do my best after the fact to get started. Hope that is helpful. So you're not seeing anything moving because there's nothing actually moving. This is just the beginning of the slides, so we'll go from there. Thanks. And just give it like one more minute. Okay. So why don't we? No, Anita, you don't have to you don't have to mute your microphone. This is I'm the only one who gets to talk here. You guys can all just leave comments in below. So thanks. So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining our very first session of Quarren training. My name is Samantha West. I'm the Client Services Librarian here at Shortgrass, and we wanted to do this today because we've noticed a fairly major uptick in the use of our e-resources over the last couple weeks for, you know, obvious reasons. And we thought that we would start this by going back to basics and working and starting you off with learning how to use ebooks and e-audiobooks and specifically doing those on your smartphone or your tablet devices. So we'll be talking today about the materials you can borrow from our Overdrive service and specifically about how you can use the Libby app to borrow those materials. So without further ado, let's get started, and I'm glad to see this is working this time. Promising. So this session should take maybe about half an hour all told. And we're going to be covering just about what Libby and Overdrive actually are. I'll talk about browsing and borrowing our digital collections, reading and listening on your mobile device, any troubleshooting and additional resources, information about that. And just very, very briefly at the end here, we'll talk about accessing these resources on your other devices. other than your smartphone or your tablet. So let's get into it. So, Overdrive is the largest provider of library ebooks and e-audiobooks, and it has a one copy slash one user model. And basically, what this means is that just like if you were going to your library and browsing the shelf and found a book that you wanted to borrow, if there was only one copy of that available on the shelf, only one person could borrow that. And that is the same for our Overdrive collection. It's just what the publishers have done. So, unfortunately, we can't change that. We really wish we could. You're able to check out currently 5 titles at a time and place holds on 5 more. And I should point out that this is 5 at a time. It's not like 5 per month or 5 per year, 5 per week. It's just 5 at a time. So if you checked out your max and returned 1 or 2, then you would have 1 or 2 spaces left to borrow more. So pretty handy. You're able to currently read on your e-reader, so if you have a Kobo, your phone, your tablet, or your computer. And there are 2 available apps for reading on your mobile device. There is the original Overdrive app, which is kind of on the way out, so we're not going to cover that one today. And Libby for Overdrive, which is the sort of remodeled, exciting, easy to use option. And it is available on your Android, iOS, and Windows devices. So let's go through this now. Like everything else that you would download for your mobile device, you can download it by going to that device's app store or equivalent. So it's the App Store on your iPhone or your iPad. It's the Google Play Store on Android. And again, the Windows Store for your Windows Phone. And just search for Libby. And I'm going to go through the next screen with you. When you're doing this, whether or not you're doing it now or after the fact, make sure that you have your library barcode number and PIN, and just contact your library if you don't know your PIN. So Libby's screens, once you have it and you're all settled in and ready to go, when you open it up for the first time, you'll be guided through the process of getting set up. So again, when you're doing that, make sure you have your library card handy. So the first thing it's going to ask you is, do you have a library card? I should point out here that if you don't have a library card but you would like one and you're like, oh my god, how do I get a library card right now? The library is closed. On your library's website, there is an option to get a temporary membership. It's free, and it does give you access to all of our library e-resources. So if you're watching this now and you're like, I would like a library card, go to the website for your home library, and there's a form there that you can fill out, and somebody will be in touch with you within a couple days. So that's pretty handy. But once you've answered yes to the do you have a library card question, you'll be taken to this screen over here. So we can basically ignore, or for our purposes right now, we're going to ignore this copy from my other device option. It assumes you've already been using Libby in the past on another device. But we're interested in these 2 questions right here. So you can look up your library by name or location. So you can search for Tilly or Bow Island or Foremost, and it should track down us down. And it will also, you can also use, if you have location services turned on your phone, you can use Tilly, or you can use that to find your home library. Sorry, I'm just going to switch back very quickly and see that everything is working. Perfect. So once you have located your library, you'll be asked to enter your library card number and PIN. So again, if you don't know your PIN, this is another one where you'd want to contact your home library. So here, I got ahead of myself there very briefly, but yeah, it'll come up as Shortgrass Library System. We are Shortgrass Library System. And once you've found us, you'll be asked to enter your card barcode and PIN. So card number here. This is a good, helpful reminder that if you don't know your PIN, you're not familiar, or you don't often use our e-resources, so why would you need to know it, right? Contact your home library, but I would also first off recommend trying either the last 4 digits of the phone number that you provided when you signed up for your library card. It could also be, a lot of people use like their birth year. So try combinations like that first, but then definitely get in touch with your home library and they will happily be able to tell you what that is. Isn't that right, Anita? And I'm sure there are others listening too. I hope there are others listening too. Once you're in, it looks like this. This is on iOS. It might look slightly different on your Android or Windows devices, but this is Libby's home screen. So we'll go through the various parts here. So the search for a book is where you will go, and we'll talk about that in more detail in a second. But when you're trying to find a title or a series or an author, you'd go up here. We'll talk about this here. This will open up our little help menu later on, front page. And down here with this library and shelf menu here. So this is accessible through any, it's accessible at any point while you're using the app. And I just want to point out the difference between library and shelf. So you'll see here library is colored purple because we are in the library section right now. The easiest way to think about this, if you're not sure, is like anything in the library tab is stuff that you would be doing if you were to visit your library. So browse the collection, check out a book, place something on hold. So that's all materials that are available. And your shelf option over here is where you would go if you were, at home and looking at your giant to be read pile and thinking about which one you were going to read next. So that's an easy way to look at it. And this will take you to whatever book you are currently reading. And when you are reading a book, it will be filled up instead of this, her head buried in a book. It will be the cover of whatever you're reading or listening to. So once you've tapped on search for a book, you are able to look for items, authors, or genres. And there's more options here if you'd like to bring up an advanced search. I want to point out that something I really, really enjoy about the functionality and the usability of this app overall is that when it gives you this list, it doesn't just show you like, oh, here's a name, but I'm not sure if that's like an author or a character or a series or what. And it breaks that down for you. So here, the search for a book is where you will go if you are looking for something more specific. So it doesn't have to be just, oh, I'm looking for a book by like Clive Cussler or whoever. You can also go in here if you're looking for a book in a particular genre. So if you only want a suspense novel, if you want suspense novels, you can go up here and type suspense. And anything that's in our catalog that's been categorized as suspense will show up here. That option is available to you. So authors, books, genres, anything like that you can probably find by searching up here. Topics. So if you were looking for hockey books, you could go up here too. And your search results will be displayed like this. So why don't we go through this? So it's everything matching Michael Crichton. For some reason, that was my search. And it says that it's listing there are 7 books available, just based on my preferences. So that includes things like thrillers, literature. You see it breaks them down by category. When you're looking at this screen, there's several things that you can do. So if you want to learn more about the book and the item itself, you can either tap on this book cover here, or you can tap on the title and it will take you to that book's records page. If the item is available for immediate borrowing and you know it's something that you want to borrow, you can just tap on borrow here and you'll be asked to confirm that. If it's not available, this will just say place hold and you'll be able to place a hold on that. Read a sample of it if you're not really certain that you want to take it out. You can give it a try. I think it's like the first 10 pages or something of that item. And then there's this tag book, which you might be familiar with if you are a regular Goodreads user, but we will get back to that in just a second. There's also this preferences menu here, which I'm going to show you. So preferences, it's where you will go if you want to refine your results. So again, if you only want to view Michael Crichton books that are categorized as literature, I didn't know there was such a thing, does that mean? You can go up here. Michael Crichton is great, by the way. Just so we're clear on that. But if you want to tap on this preferences screen over here, it will bring up this drop-down menu and it will allow you to change your preferences for what your results actually look like. So if you're looking for books that are only available as ebooks, you don't want an audiobook, and you only want books in English, if general content, so if you're looking for books for your kids though, you can set that to their age range, or teens, or YA. If you only want books that are currently available for borrowing, which I know is a big concern for a lot of us right now, you can set that. You can have it sorted in a particular way, so alphabetical by title, or sort by release date. So if you only want new stuff, you can have that. all available to you. And when you hit apply preferences, your search results will be updated to reflect what you've chosen. So, and this, your preferences will remain for any searches that you do after this as well. So, for instance, if you set it up for, I'm looking for a hockey book for my kid to listen to, and then you go back and you're like looking for a thriller for yourself. You're like, why can't I find anything? Why are none of these results showing? It's like, well, um, you might want to go in and fiddle around with your preferences. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Sorry, I'm just going to flip back very quickly to my screen. Make sure everything is kosher. Perfect. So the other option is if you're not sure what you're feeling, you are able to browse collections. And I know that it's not quite the same as being able to go to the library and pick up and see and smell all of these books yourself, but it is something. It does. The option is for browsing does exist, albeit a little bit changed. From that main library page, if you just honestly just like literally keep scrolling down and scrolling down, you will hit the end of it eventually, but stuff has been assigned into various collections. So you'll see we have this like popular collections option here, so it shows you if you want all, you can pull up a collection of all the romance novels that are currently available or materials that were just added. There are other options for like books to screen, teen series, etc., etc. So it just really depends on what you're looking for. If you don't have an idea, but maybe this will help you sort of jog your memory, jog your brain. So I hope I'm not going too fast, but we're going to get into the actual meat of looking and reading and listening to things now. So we're going to shift over to the shelf. So if you tap on shelf down here in the bottom right of any screen that you're in, while you're reading, it will bring up a page that looks roughly like this one. And we'll just go through what all of these options are. So loans will let you view your currently borrowed items, how long you have left, if anybody else is waiting to borrow it, etc. Holds will let you see the status of items that you're currently waiting to borrow. And it's actually really handy because it should tell you like about how long you're going to have to wait for that item to show up, how many people are in front of you, things like that. And the tags that I said we would get to. So again, if you're a regular Goodreads user, you might have already come across this. And so tagging an item is basically a way to keep some sort of record for yourself about what you've done with that item or what you would like to do. So for instance, if it's a book that you've already read but is a physical copy and you wanted to make sure that you had like you could indicate that as like already read, or if it's something that you want to, you know, you're going to want to read in the future, but you don't have any, but you don't really feel like reading it now, and you know that if you put it on hold, you won't bother with it. You know how that's definitely a whole mood in and of itself. But that the tag option is a really great way to keep track of materials like this. It's reading now. It'll show you what you're currently reading. Actions, we're going to talk about that on the next slide. So again, there's a couple other things that you can do. If you want to, if you want to start reading from when you're in here, you don't care about the rest of it, you can either tap on the book cover or tap where it says open audiobook or open book if it's a book. This shows that it's been downloaded. This little check mark is on my device, tells you when it's due. You can click on Manage Loan to return items early or renew them. This is only available, renewal is only available if nobody is waiting, and you can only do it a few days in advance. So it's not like you can have the item and you take it out and you've got 20 days left on your loan and you can add another 3 weeks to it. It doesn't quite work like that, unfortunately. And the other thing I would like to point out now is that, especially right now, when our physical collections are obviously very limited, if you want some really, really good karma and you know you're done with a book or you know you're probably not going to finish it, returning something early is about the nicest thing you can do for other patrons. So something to keep in mind. And then tap action. The last thing I wanted to point out is this little actions buttons here. So when you tap on that, it brings up this screen here with a few things that you might want to do. So synchronizing your shelf. So if you have Libby installed on your phone and then you also have it on your tablet, and you might have started reading on one device and then wanted to switch to another, you can tapping on synchronize shelf will make it so that everything is matches across devices. So you can basically pick up exactly where you left off, which is really handy. Read books with, I don't imagine is necessary, relevant to a whole lot of you, but I'll mention it anyway. You do have the ability for anyone who has a Kindle or already uses the Amazon Kindle app, you can switch to reading books within that app, or reading Libby ebooks within that app. That option is available to you. And the last one that I think will be relevant to a lot of people, so I'm saving it for last, is you can change the download rules. And what this means is that if you don't want to be downloading big audio files over your data plan, you can go in here and change it so that your data that you're only downloading when you're connected to a Wi-Fi connection, or you won't be able to stream, or you'll be able to sorry, I lost my train of thought. But basically, yeah, you can change your download settings so that you're not burning through all of your whole data plan to listen to an audiobook. So let's get into our actual reading options. So one of the things that we all really like about Libby is that it's super customizable for the reader. I will talk about that in just a second. I want to show you the top level menu options here. So the magnifying glass here lets you search within the book. Bookmark, I bet we can't imagine what that is for, but it is in fact to make a mark of a note of a place in your book. I think this might be a good point. The part to mention though is that if you close a book and you close your app or your phone, you restart your phone, your app will remember where you left off. So bookmark might be, if you want it, there's a passage that you really liked that you'd like to return to. That might be, a bookmark option. And then there's this hamburger menu over here, which opens up the rest of our options. So again, you'll be able to see, you can search, you can view chapters in your book, any bookmarks you made. This tips and secrets section down here, which is basically like a help menu for when you're when you're on your shelf and when you're actually reading. If you need a hand with or some troubleshooting, that option is available. Again, there's the option to return it early while you're reading. If you're like, wow, this passage, I hate this, let's get rid of this immediately, you can do that. View more information about the book. And then what we're really here for is our reading settings. So a few things, once you tap on that, it brings up this menu. So that has a text scale, so you can make the font larger or smaller depending on your needs. Flicking this include accessibility sizes actually lets you, if you need even larger font, that option is available to you. The lighting menu here lets you choose between bright, sepia, and dark, depending on what you're most comfortable reading. And there's also down here book design. You can't quite see it, but there is the option to choose a font that's most comfortable for you. And I should point out that this does include Open Dyslexic, which is a good font for people who might have trouble reading or processing certain fonts and types of text. So that is settings for actually reading. And I know we have a lot of audiobook users in our audience, so let's go and talk to you about the audiobook settings. So adjusting your listening settings is actually even easier than adjusting your reading settings, I guess probably because there's less of it to do. If you need to change your volume, unfortunately you can't make it louder within the app, but you can do it with your device. Just something to point out. Tapping the speedometer icon right here will let you adjust playback speed. I think it goes from like 1 time to like 2.5 times. So if you need to make it faster, this here will make switch to night mode so it's not as bright and glowy. This will let you leave the bookmark lets you leave a bookmark so you can return again to a certain passage of text. And then there's this hamburger menu, which, as before with the e-reader or with the ebooks, lets you view chapters, see where you've left bookmarks, or return an item. And we also have a couple of options down here for manually manipulating your book. So if you move the slider here, it will, you can move forward or backwards in your book. If you want to rewind, here's our option. You can rewind about, I think it's 15 seconds at a time. So I should also point out that I know that at least on iOS, when I start playing these books, I can just use my regular um, listening controls. So you might not, oftentimes you probably won't even have to come into the menu to adjust playback here. So that's something to point out as well. So now we're going to return very briefly to the library section of our app. So tap down here and talk to you very briefly about some setting preferences, switching cards in libraries, and accessing our help and troubleshooting resources. So Libby has this black and white icon up here in the top right that will open this menu over here, and there's a lot of things that you can do with it. So for instance, it'll show you we're at Shortgrass Library System, and it shows you how many cards you currently have linked to the app. And I wanted to mention this as well because I know a lot of people will share devices. So for instance, you might share a device with your partner, or your kids might have one, and you want to be able to add multiple cards so that you're not, limited to 5 items for the entire family when all of you have separate cards. So you can add a library or add a card down here. So your kid, if you have one and your kid has one, you're both able to add cards to the app right here, which is really, really handy. If you have a card with e-resource privileges from another library system, you can add it to the app as well. Just something to point out. I know some people do have that access. And you're also able to access our help and support menu here. So Learn Libby, let you read books with different apps. So I'll go and show you. This is all the same information as before. So for instance, you can go in here and manage notifications. It'll show you, manage notifications. I wanted to talk about that too. So you can set it so that you enable or disable push notifications that let you know your hold is ready or your item is about to expire. You would go in here and open this menu to change what you are seeing and what the app is telling you when you're not using it. And troubleshooting. So once you tap into the Learn Libby section, you'll pull up a page that looks like this. Again, accessible through that right sidebar menu, and it has some really brief, really informative videos that would answer most of your common questions about the app. So for instance, if you accidentally delete a title that you're listening to, but you still have it on hold, it'll show you. You can go in here and it'll show you how to re-download things. They've also just recently implemented basically a pause hold service, similar to what you can already do with your physical books. So if you know that you're not going to have time to get your hold, you're not going to have time to read your book when it comes in or listen to your title when it comes in, the option to have it re-delivered is available. There's a little video about that. If you prefer to read information, there is an official Libby help site, which is just help.libbyapp.com. And if you're still having issues, of course, you can always contact us and we'll try and help you solve your problem. Either you can go to your home libraries, and I'm sure that they're always happy to assist you. You can get in touch with us through our Shortgrass Facebook page, chat, comments, what have you. We're always happy to help. So that's something else to point out. And very quickly, just before I let everybody go and try and get to any questions that I might have missed when I cannot see them, note on other devices. So we did have this question asked, whether or not you can still borrow and use Overdrive ebooks on your laptop or desktop. You definitely can. The easiest way to get there is, of course, to visit just shortgrass.overdrive.com directly. And you again, as you would do within the app or with basically any of our other e-resources, sign in with your library card, barcode, and PIN. And you can navigate it. You can also navigate to it from any of our member library websites. All of them have that main menu tab for navigating our sites. you would click on where the Books and More tab and choose either e-audiobooks from the drop-down list or e-audio or e-books, and comics. And then select Overdrive from the list of available options. Yeah, the service is called Overdrive, just so we're clear on that. Libby is the app that you use to access it. Materials can be read or listened to in your browser or downloaded to another device. I believe they also have a proprietary Overdrive app. Unfortunately, we don't really have time to cover listening on your desktop device today. If you're interested in learning that or interested in learning how to transfer materials, we can definitely do our best to help you with that, but it's quite a process in and of itself. So we decided to leave that out of this session today. So with that, I am going to flip it to the questions page. If you flip my screen back so I can see all of your lovely connections, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'm glad it worked this time. Thanks. So I'll leave it up for a couple more minutes. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask them. I'll do my best to answer them. If not, the video of this will be available after the fact. So thanks. Oh, we're so glad. I'm glad it was helpful. We're gonna try and do a few more of these. I think now that I've got the growing pains set it up, we'll do our best to run a couple more on RB Digital and Press Reader, Ancestry. I don't know if anybody saw today is now available for in-home use. So I might try and do an Ancestry session and go from there. So yeah, thanks so much. Okay, I think we're going to shut the stream down now, but again, thank you so much for tuning in. This video, I should say, also will be available on our site now, so if anybody needs a refresher on this, then it will be available permanently. All right, see you all later.